What is up, Fantasy League enjoyers? IEM Dallas group stage coming around the corner, an incredibly stacked tournament as well, but we'll get back onto that in a few moments' time. First, we'll just recap how we did in the previous event, which was the Dacha Bet Boom tournament. Top 31%, which really stings because I actually made way and downgraded my spirit picks to allow electronic. He was 200,000. And it's the worst 200,000 I think I've ever spent in Fantasy League. Minus 10 points. And even with a much better performance in his last game, the damage is already done. Like, this VP team looks garbage to me right now. I am not going to believe in them until they make me believe. And until then, I'm just staying very, very clear of VP. Like, Norbert's not performing to that same level anymore. He's hot and cold. Electronic has just been a shambles. He bottom fragged multiple maps, consistently below everybody else on the team. And I just can't have faith in VP at this stage. Now I've said that, watch them win the event. Watch them win Dallas out of nowhere. Probably not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I nailed the mouse picks. They did fantastically. Chopper, as ever, is reliably going to be solid. The problem for Spirit really is they got smashed by Mouse in the finals 3-0 in a best of 5, and every map was pretty straightforward and comfortable for Mouse. So that really actually hurt the points for both Chopper and Magix, but also boosted the points for Exertion and Shui. At this stage, it looks like Mouse are Spirit's kryptonite. It looks like they are the boogeyman, and this Mouse team looks phenomenal. For me, they are the best team in the world right now. There is just one caveat. There is one small little question mark that is looming in the back of their minds, is can we do it against FaZe? They've been unable to do it so far. FaZe consistently seem to have their number. They are Mouse's kryptonite. So this event's going to be very interesting. The group stage, though, they're actually not going to face each other, which I'll get back onto in a moment. But obviously in the playoffs, that could change. So top 31%, normally I'd be pretty happy with this. Anything around 30 or below, and I'm happy with it. But the problem for me was that everyone else around me did way better. Like, they were all hitting top 20s, top 15, top 5s. Hawker out of nowhere's leapt into 5th after being somewhere down around the 15 mark a couple tournaments ago. So it goes to show, if you're on a bit of a heater, the difference that can make. And I'm the opposite. I've been having a bit of a slow one. Obviously, top 99% absolutely crushed me in the previous event. So I've dropped into 9th, and I'm miles away. And there's only a few games left in the season, I want to say. So I think I might be cooked for getting 5th. We'll still try. We'll hang in there. We'll do our best. And maybe if I can hit a top 1 to top 5%, things can change pretty quickly. But right now, it's looking bleak. So I mentioned before about the groups being really stacked. This tournament is incredibly stacked. I think it has the top 6 teams taking part, and in the top 15, like 10 or so of them are represented, if not more. Probably the best IEM Dallas we've ever had in terms of teams taking part and how close the current sort of status is of the top 10, top 15 slots. So in Group A, you have Mouse against 9Z, Complexity take on Liquid, G2 face the Falcons, and Vitality will go head-to-head against Monty. So although there are some weaker teams in this group, I think it's pretty evenly spread. You would say that Mouse have a pretty good chance of stampeding their way to the upper finals, considering how good they've been as of late. Very few teams have stood against them or really taken maps off them. And Complexity and Liquid, although I think Complexity will win that game, although Liquid just got to the CCT Global Finals, they lost to Eternal Fire in the finals 3-1 in a best of 5. I don't think the Complexity or Liquid can hang with Mouse. But another caveat to bring into the equation is best of 1s are the opening matchups. So tread a little bit more lightly with gambling fully off the first map, because BO1s are always a bit of a coin flip, even with the really solid teams. This is in Dallas. Some teams are going to have crazy flight schedules, going to be going back and forth. That could play in. They could have a slow start. There's a lot of variables that come into play, but I'm still going to stick with the teams that I think are the best on paper, and best of 1s be damned in that case. You can't think too much into that one, I think. In Group B, you got FaZe up against M80. I will just say real quick before I move on, M80 is a team that is looking very good right now. Much better than their sort of name value possesses. I think a lot of people write M80 off because they're like, I don't really know who they are. They're this American-based roster, but they have a ton of German contingents in. Some of you will remember, Slacks and Sin from their days of playing with like Big and some of those other German orgs in the past, but the main man here is Molbs. Like, this guy is really, really good right now, and he's performing out of his mind. I'm not going to go for him, though, because his price is 209k, which, although I think that is a fair price, especially if they were in like a tier 2 tournament, because of how stacked this is, and you're playing against FaZe first, and then the loser of VP and Heroic, even though both of these teams have looked a bit shaky for me, I still don't feel good about the price. So I'm not going to go for Molbs, but if you are a believer in M80, I don't think it would be a bad decision. These guys have been looking way better than the name suggests. VP and Heroic, I've already discussed VP, man. They've just been so disappointing to me. Heroic is still in a transitional phase with Dexter coming in. I don't think they looked horrible in their previous tournament, but not good enough for me to justify fully believing they're going to go far in this. Although you could say FaZe, like historically in CS2, they've only missed one playoff finals now, which was their last tournament they attended. But they always seem to struggle in group stages. Like, it's a tale as old as time. They limp and stagger their way through the through the group stages, and then they come alive and they suddenly like miraculously get healed, and it turns out they were just trolling all along in the playoffs. So could Heroic go on a tear here? Maybe. It wouldn't be a crazy prophecy to go for here, especially as I think they should beat VP. Spirit and FlyQuest should be straightforward for Spirit, and Na'Vi and Big. Now, FlyQuest are better than a lot of people are giving them credit for, but it's still Spirit, right? And other than Mouse, no other team has really been able to hang with these guys. I think Na'Vi beat Big as well, though Na'Vi have looked a little bit shaky post-major. So in terms of predictions for how the two groups are going to come down, I think Mouse are going to make it fairly convincingly to the upper finals, and then I think Vitality will join them. G2 with Stewie2k instead of HooXi. I know some people are fully on board the Stewie2k hype train, like he's going to wind back the years, he's going to be, you know, his prime liquid kind of Stewie. I don't personally see it. I think he's been out of the tier 1 bracket for way too long. But what it could do is free up the rest of G2 to play a different level, to almost play with the chains off. Not to say that HooXi was bringing them down. I think he's come under a lot of very unfair scrutiny, actually. I think he's solid for G2. What I mean is, though, it's a bit of a free hit for G2. Like, realistically, although some people are going to go overboard on the Stewie2k hype, a lot of people are going to be more realistic with their expectations of this tournament. Knowing that HooXi is very likely to come back, obviously he's away because he's at his sister's wedding, I think this frees up, like, Nico to just have fun and enjoy himself on the server. m0NESY has been great consistently, so just keep doing your thing. Hunter and Nexa to have a little bit more freedom and just chill and just have a good time. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It could go the other way as well. Like, G2 could become too stuck in their own minds, and maybe like Dallas is really important to them and they really want to win this, and they get too stiff and they kind of, you know, don't really flourish. It can go both ways, but I know some people are thinking G2 may surprise here. I think they can beat Falcons. Falcons haven't looked particularly good as of late, but when they run into Vitality, that's a different beast. That's a different ball game altogether. ZywOo was so good in his previous tournament as well, like really coming alive, and that hunger after a disappointing major, wanting to prove a lot of the naysayers wrong. And unfortunately for Monty, and I did get a chance to cast these guys recently with Haji standing in and Stewie2k as a replacement. I think I actually casted their first game with this roster. They look decent. Like, Demka and Waro are still beasts. Krasnal's still a good player, but I just don't see them clicking and gelling enough to dethrone Vitality. Like, it's Vitality. Vitality could even win this whole tournament, let's be honest. So it is a tough one. As you can see, both groups are stacked. Both groups are coming through with tons of teams and possibilities. But the team I've gone for here is a little bit different to usual. Now, if you've been watching these videos consistently of mine on the Fantasy League, you'll know I like to double stack into a team that I feel very good with. And I nearly did it with Mouse, because I still think Mouse are going to just run through that group. They have probably the easiest, on paper at least, run to the upper finals out of any of the teams that are taking part in this tournament. Like, again, 9Z, Complexity, Liquid to make it through to the upper finals, but then they play against Vitality, and that's not going to be easy. So what I've preferred to do here is just put one player from each team I think are going to make it through and could potentially have like a really strong run. Exertion continues to prove to me that he is the man on Mouse. Like, he is so good. Jimmy's posting up big performances as well, but Exertion is just so good. And although his price did hike up to 220k, which is a significant hike, I think it's fair enough, and I think he's still going to be worth that value. It was between him or Jimmy, but I was about $1,000 away from hitting the budget. We've gone for Flamesy on Vitality as well. He's 208k. I think it's very good value for money, actually, for him. And I think Vitality are going to do really sharp. I would obviously love to have gone for a Spinks or even a Zywoo, but Zywoo's way too expensive, and Spinks wouldn't have allowed me to go for one player of each team that I think is going to make it through fairly convincingly and fairly comfortably. Chopper was 198,000. I think this is about as much as I'll be willing to spend on him typically. If he goes up any higher, I probably won't. And if spirits start to crash and burn, I probably will stop picking him up for 198k. Although, to be fair, if spirits start crashing and burning, his price will likely come down anyway. But I think that because of his eco-friendly tag giving him a lot of extra points, he's on Spirit, a team I expect to go the distance here, and he often gets a lot of points and a lot of decent performances with Spirit as well. I think he's still worth the price. We've gone for Rain, 196k for Rain on FaZe, and his recent ratings are 1.04, but we know he has it within him to still pop off and have a couple of crazy maps. So I think 196k is very, very much worth it for him, even though he may not be posting up the biggest numbers. Obviously, if you're going to go for FaZe and you feel like you want to like stack heavily on FaZe, you're looking at Brokey, you're looking at Frozen, not a Rain. But because of the price, because I wanted to incorporate FaZe into this roster, I've gone for him as well. And then finally, I'm going to go for G2 with Stewie2k. He was the cheapest player, 178,000. He was exactly what I had left over, actually, so it was a bit of a no-brainer. Now, I don't believe that he's going to come into this tournament and wind back the years and be like the classic smoke criminal Stewie2k of bygone eras. But he's cheap. And if he still wants to be a professional player and he still wants to play at this level, this is about as good an opportunity as Stewie could ever have. He is playing at the most stacked IEM Dallas of all time as far as I'm concerned. He is an American playing on American soil with a huge fan base behind him because of what he's done in the past. And if you're not up for this, if you're not coming into this tournament with a level of hunger and drive to show the world what you can do as a potential to get yourself signed, hell, he might even be eyeing up the idea of replacing HooXi in his own mind. I don't know what the background workings are. HooXi seems like he's legitimately going to his sister's wedding and G2 are happy with him. But if you're Stewie, you have to think, like, this is my chance, this is my opportunity to have a really good performance with G2 here, to have a couple of, like, performances where I'm dropping 15, 20 kills, I'm being the difference maker, I'm making those crazy highlight reel-worthy moments, and this could lead into a contract for a bigger team. Especially if you're looking at like the whole Liquid and Cadian situation. You're looking at the fact that there is potentially, the rumors are, that there's going to be a major in America next year. If you are Stewie, you are looking at these opportunities and thinking, hell yeah, I'd love a piece of that, thank you very much. This is your chance, man. So I'm going for 178k and G2 likely to make it through and win a bunch of games. I think he's a decent budget pick because of the uncertainty. I've put leader on him because I think G2 will win, and these stats are kind of skewed anyway because obviously he's been playing in other teams, nowhere near this level of caliber of play. So what do you think of the team, guys? I've gone for a little bit more of a spread and cover all of my bases kind of team. I'm not double stacking this time. I could have double stacked with Stewie as my second player from Mouse. He was also the same price as Rain. He's 196,000. I was very certainly, I was close to doing that, but I decided not to because I wanted to go for a FaZe player as well, especially with their side of the bracket. But what do you think of this team? Comment below, let me know. I'm hoping that I'm right on this and I can start to claw my way back up and start to make a move towards the top 5 again. This is quite top heavy on an Exertion and Flamesy though, isn't it? Like, realistically, this needs to go the way I'm hoping, with all these teams making it through and Exertion and Flamesy like having some stellar performances and getting a ton of points. I'm not sure it's going to happen, guys. I'll see you in the next video.